The Time Machine Did It, Chapter 6. That evening, an elite group of the city's most influential criminals met to decide what to do about me. I'd been asking too many questions, they felt, and not giving them enough time to think of witty answers before moving on to the next question. After various solutions to the so-called Burley problem had been advanced, they finally decided to just try warning me off the case first. It would be the simplest, cheapest way. The organization's ammo bill last year was through the roof. Things had gotten so bad they had to let some pickpockets and rapists go just before Christmas. So, since threats are cheaper than bullets, they decided to go that way. Not long after this decision was made, my doorbell rang. I went to the door and opened it. Two men were standing there. One was pointing a gun at me. "Oh no," I said. The guy with the gun sneered at me. "Aren't you glad to see us?" "Of course not." The criminals came into my apartment. One was very tall, the other was very small. Actually, they were both about average height. I was using artistic license there. I'm told this is the thing to do, as it makes the story more interesting. If one guy is the size of a refrigerator and the other one is the size of a thumbtack, this conjures up vivid picture in the mind. It's like you can see the one guy being smaller than the other, and this interests you. Readers get bored if everybody's the same size. Anyway, these two guys came into the room in their various sizes and looked around. I hadn't expected visitors, so the room wasn't looking its best. The smaller crook said, "Geez, what kind of guy would live like this? It's like a pig lives here." I frowned. "I'm already mad about you breaking in and pointing a gun at me. Don't make it worse." The smaller crook covered his mouth with his handkerchief. "I gotta get out of here, boss. The dust and the mold is getting to me." "Have you taken your medicine?" "Yes, but it's not helping." The guy with the gun turned to me. "I'll have to make this short. We just stopped in to give you some friendly advice, Burley. There are some things going on around town right now that don't concern you. Things involving time machines and other advanced scientific concepts understood by few. Our friendly advice to you is that you keep your nose out of these things, or you and your nose are dead men." When guys get tough with me like that, I usually try to make some kind of tough-sounding wisecrack. But tough-sounding wisecracks aren't as easy to think up as you would think. I mean, if I was good at wisecracks, I'd be working for Milton Berle, not you. They waited for a few minutes for me to come up with a wisecrack, while I just stood there thinking and staring and sweating. Then they left. I would have thought of one. I had another group of unexpected visitors the following morning. They were in my office waiting for me when I arrived. Detective Sergeant Dodge and his merry men from the 4th Precinct. My secretary, Elizabeth, looked at me accusingly. "What have you done now?" "I don't know." "If they want me to testify against you, I'll do it." "You are a gem," I said. I wasn't particularly happy to see Sergeant Dodge. No one ever was. He had a disconcerting habit of pinching your face between his thumb and forefinger when he was talking to you, so he could be sure that you were paying attention to him. I didn't like that approach. Nobody did, not even the mayor. I walked over to Dodge and asked him to what I owed the extreme pleasure. "Just a friendly warning from your friendly local police department," he said. The friendly warning reads as follows. "Dear friend, if you continue your current investigations, we of the police cannot guarantee your personal safety." "What's different about that?" I asked. "I didn't say it was different. I just said to watch out." "I see. Well, thanks." He let go of my face, pocketed a couple of items and caught his fancy and left. This was 2 friendly warnings I had received in one 24-hour time period. A personal best, but friendly warnings aren't always as friendly as they sound. That night I wrote the word "yikes" in my diary. Nonetheless, I went back on the streets to continue my investigations. It might seem stupid to you that I did this, but probably my whole job seems stupid to you. What it comes down to is the only way I know how to make a living in the detective business is to be tenacious, tough, and something else that begins with T. The 3 T's. If I let people scare me off a case, word would get around and they'd scare me off all my cases. Then they'd probably scare me out of town, maybe all the way to Germany. I couldn't let them scare me that far away. It wouldn't be good for business. That evening I checked out a nightclub that was known to be frequented by criminal types, and was in fact run by criminals. It wasn't the most pleasant place to spend an evening. The food and drinks were terrible, and the entertainment wasn't much better. I guess it's hard to find criminals who have really mastered big band instruments, but it was a place an investigator like myself could pick up some leads. I hung around the bar, listening to the various furtive conversations that were going on around me. A couple of guys near me were planning a big heist, apparently. After a while, they noticed I was listening in, partly because I kept asking them to repeat things. I've got to quit doing that. That's a real tip-off. One of the crooks finally glared at me. "Do you mind? We're trying to have a private conversation." "Not at all," I said. I moved away, but then leaned back in so my ear was actually a little closer to them than it was before. Then I made the ear widen a little. They probably wouldn't have noticed, except I lost my balance a little bit there, and my ear went into one of their drinks. They picked up what was left of their drinks and went off to another table in the corner. I didn't bother waiting for them to invite me to join them. I wasn't picking up any information here anyway. The next day, a dead turtle was left on my doorstep as a warning. I couldn't figure out as a warning for what, and I guess whoever was watching me picked up on that because the next morning there was another dead turtle, but this one had several sheets of paper glued to its back leg. The pieces of paper contained a long, footnoted explanation of all the symbolism involved. It didn't make a lot of sense to me. The turtle was the turtle of inquisitiveness, and the cheese smeared on its shell meant something, and the little cowboy boots on its feet meant something. Everything about this animal meant something, apparently, to whoever sent it. I still didn't get what it was all about. The next morning there was no turtle. Somebody just shot at me from the bushes. The fact that I had continued my investigations despite their friendly warnings delivered by them in what they felt was a friendly way amazed the crooks, and yes, it kind of hurt their feelings too. This was not the way friends acted, they felt. It prompted a late-night visit to my home of 4 thugs who invited me to come along with them for a little ride. While this invitation was being delivered, the leader of the group absently picked lint off my shoulder and eyelashes off my eyelids. This helped me come to my decision. I would go along with them. I said a well-lighted area might be a fun place to go, maybe someplace with a lot of witnesses, but they said they would choose the destination. They took me to a drive-in movie. About halfway into the second feature, they told me what was on their minds. They didn't want me nosing around asking about time machines ever again. They felt they had made themselves clear on this before, but obviously some facets of the matter had remained vague. They wanted to take this opportunity to make their request louder and clearer. They attached a drive-in speaker to each of my ears, then, tying into the theater sound system, repeated their warning at such a volume that as I write this, my head is still vibrating enough to seem to be playing a little song. Then they asked politely if I had heard them this time. I said I sure did. Boy. Heard it that time, loud and clear. They said good. As they drove me home, they told me a story about another man who hadn't paid attention to their warnings. What was left of him was found by some Russians who were walking in space. If this story was true, it was alarming. I asked if it was true. They said it was. This was alarming.